Coming live from WEEU on an all-new Stamps Plans the World with your host, Samantha Bremekamp. Cannot wait to share the ins and outs and meet all the amazing people that make all of our radio dreams come true. Well, hello. We are here where all the magic happens with the CEO, John, of WEEU, and I'm going to share with you everything I learned about the radio business. John, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. We appreciate you coming by and
of course,
checking this place out.
Of course. I'm thrilled to be here. Would you like to tell me, how did you even fall into such a business?
So it goes back to when I was a kid.
Okay.
I've always had a passion for radio. I was one of those kids who I always listened to the radio, had a connection with the DJs. That's where I learned about music and where I learned about current events and history. And as I got older, I just got deeper and deeper into it.
Awesome.
In college, I ended up getting involved with the college radio station, as everybody does.
Hoping. Yes.
And became the general manager of the college radio station.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even a comm major. I was a political science major.
That's great.
But I loved doing that.
Yeah.
And that took me into my first commercial radio job, which was in York for a real radio station doing overnights.
Wow.
But it was the best time of my life. And I remember you would stand there and think to yourself, like, it's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm playing a Michael Bolton song on the radio, but I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't believe I get paid to do this.
Yes.
And I just loved everything about it. I love the personal connection that this medium has, and I've never left it. So even leaving the business like full time, going into software and doing something else professionally, I've always maintained connections with a local radio station or dabbled in something just to keep my feet in the water. And when our last startup was coming to a close, my wife and I were figuring out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
What's the next step? Is it another startup? Do we find other jobs?
Yeah.
What are we looking at? And I was always looking for something local that may become available, and it just so happened that WEEU was on the market. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and it was unique in the fact that WEEU still had an audience, even though it was an AM radio station, still had a loyal audience.
Yeah.
It has a fantastic signal, and it actually owned its property. So as we were talking about it, my wife, for some reason, agreed. And
because she's awesome, we'll meet her later.
Yeah, and Kristine agreed, and we decided to jump in.
That's so cool.
And here we are.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm super excited. We just popped in, which I'll share that in a minute, to Mike's morning show with Clover Hill, and they're having a wild good time, so I can't wait to share that. And we're going to go learn the magic of what it takes to make a successful radio station.
This building started as WEEU in 1969. Before that, it was an insurance company building that was cut in half to make way for a wider Court Street. But when this station moved from its location on Penn Street, they put it in here. A lot of the decor that was put in place in 1969 was still there. And as you can imagine,
tanker desks,
shag carpeting,
oh my goodness,
vibrant, maybe not so much vibrant colors on the wall anymore, because it was a mismatch then of this 1980s. Like, we tried to clean this up, renovation, and modernize it, and then like what we just left behind. So everything was very tired. The ceiling tiles were disgusting. The ceiling rails were rusty. The lighting was, some of it didn't work, and it was very dim and dingy and dark. And it was.
And you'll notice there's no windows. So with dim lighting, it felt like a cave.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can tell now that it is gorgeous inside.
Very bright.
Did a great job.
So, and the color scheme Kristine had everything to do with that. If I would have done this, it would have looked like it did when we came in. But she did a fantastic job picking colors. But the whole point was to make this place bright, give it life, and I mean, obviously clean it up and make it presentable. But we wanted the level of brightness here to reflect the life that we want to have in this building. And it's fascinating that the temperature change of everybody here changed once the surroundings and the environment changed. So you saw people with like a spring in their step now, where before kind of wasn't there.
Right.
So it's been a huge help to changing morale and making this a really great place to work and come to every single day.
Oh yeah, no, it is. You did a fantastic job. Your taste is impeccable, and
Thank you.
I'm sure there's very few people who miss the orange shag carpet that is from many decades ago.
That had been deep cleaned in 2
Yeah.
I
decades.
can only imagine. So we are here where all the magic happens, and I am very lucky to be crashing their party during a break. We are with Clover Hill on Mike's Morning Show, enjoying some beverages. Everybody would like to say hello and
Cheers.
it's
8 o'clock in the morning.
Clover Hill, any time of the day.
Yeah, the benefits of working for WEEU. So this is our screener room. It's a production room, but it's where our phone screener and show producers sit. Maggie May, say hi.
Hello.
Maggie May is the producer for feedback, among other things. She's a big driver in our social media. So if you see our right. So she's the big creative force over a lot of the cool stuff you see there. So, but when she's not doing that, or while she's doing that, she's also doing this. But when somebody calls in to one of our talk shows, it creates a much more fluid program when the host knows what's coming up. So she'll answer the phone, get their name, find out what they want to talk about, and if it's something that maybe shouldn't be said, she gets to be the gatekeeper to try to keep those people from making it to the air. But this is part of the magic of that, how that talk program works.
That's so incredible. I bet you could write many books just based on your interactions.
Yeah, definitely. We want an interesting book.
Oh yeah.
I went to college for media production. I originally focused in like videography in college, the TV side. I'd never even considered radio.
Sure.
And then this opportunity presented itself.
Perfect.
And now I want to stick with radio.
Yeah. So speaking of your time working the night shift, that has to have been very interesting. Do you have any stories or memories, or what was that like?
Well, it was interesting because I was in college.
Right.
And I mean, my overnight shift was a Friday night and a Saturday night shift. So technically it was Saturday morning, Sunday morning.
Right.
And that's prime party time for people in college.
Oh yes.
And honestly, if you wanted to get into the business, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
And overnights were always the training ground
That makes
for
sense.
anybody who was coming up. So the job opening was there, and miraculously I got the job.
That's amazing.
Unfortunately, those jobs don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So and that's one of the challenges that we have here is like when you are looking to find talent, there's the farm is gone.
Right.
So I got to come up through the farm,
Which is awesome.
but while all my friends were having a great time at college and partying, I was having a great time of my own, except I was sitting in a radio studio by myself.
Cool. Which is so awesome though. What a better way to spend your time. No offense to all of us who did the other thing, but
it was a wild time because like you think of the overnights and it can be incredibly boring because there's nobody else in the building. I'm the only one there, and I'm in the middle of essentially in the middle of a field along a highway in Wrightsville.
Right.
And we had a studio that had windows facing the highway.
Oh my!
So it was like all dark.
Oh my gosh!
All night long, you get random callers.
Yeah.
And you would get people who just wanted to chat. Now we're a music format,
right?
So like I had my breaks, and there were things I had to do because we were playing CDs at the time, so it was manual.
Okay, yeah.
And that was that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
How fun it was to actually do the mechanics of it.
Yes.
But that being said, like you would get these callers, and they'd call in. Some are just normal requests, but then you have people who have something going on. Maybe they got back from the bar and had a little bit too much to drink, and it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're dialing up the radio station they're listening to. Yeah, and they're giving me an earful of whatever happened.
Oh my gosh.
And so
oh my gosh.
And you wouldn't put them on, but you also didn't want to be rude. So
you'd have these great conversations with people and be like, oh boy, this is never making the air.
And there were some times where I know I'd have somebody on the line there for like 45 minutes or an hour before I could like gracefully get them on.
Yeah.
Again, as a kid, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. Well,
but I'm just there listening and doing my thing. But
the
one story, and this happened a couple of times, but always scared the living daylights out of me, was we had these big windows. They were floor to ceiling facing the highway. And you just be in there doing your own thing, like working, and all of a sudden you hear this.
On the window?
In the dead middle of the night, and there'd be a knock on the window dead middle of the night.
Petrified.
And like there was a strict rule, like you wouldn't, like we had
never
codes,
let anybody in.
never
Right,
let anybody in the
course.
building. And it would be somebody who broke down along the highway.
Oh my
and
gosh!
they would
they're
wander up looking for
because there's a light
assistance.
on and be like, "Can I use your phone?"
But all of a sudden, it's the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh!
Was dark, and all of a sudden, there's a person there. And you're
Oh
like,
no!
I'll tell you, the shot of adrenaline you get at that time of the night. It was pretty wild, but it was a great time, a great learning experience.
So cool. Yeah.
And I was blessed enough to work at a radio station that had these DJ, these tenured DJs who had been there, some of them 35 years.
Wow.
And they were all pros, like some of the best. It was a great radio station, but being able to come up through that, it was the foundation for everything that you're seeing here today. So, and
I think it worked out and paid off, obviously, giving your party nights away so that you could fall deeper in love and absolutely understand the business of the radio, which is just incredible.
And I now have this incredible familiarity with like late 70s, 80s, and early 90s soft rock music. So what's better than that?
So trivia people, if you need somebody, I have a guy who would totally crush the music section of that. That's amazing. So with my background as a public librarian, I have a lot of backgrounds, but we would get calls a lot from people who are mostly just like lonely people. And this is their socialization. So they call with really hilarious questions like, would extra virgin olive oil, could it kill you? And then like all of us at the reference desk would be like, this is awesome. And like challenge accepted. And we would look up all these crazy things for people. But with that field, like you love learning things.
Sure.
So there was no question, as long as it's appropriate, that you're like, let's get to the bottom of this super specific, really random, bizarre question. But it would help the time go too if like it was a slow day and people weren't coming around, or it was like the night shift and there's like the kids studying for finals or whatever, and then you get your lonely hearts calling, which is like super sweet. So I can only imagine at a radio station what the nighttime calls would be like. But I'm sure you handled it. Yeah. Oh my God. Which is so awesome. But that does explain a lot of where your love for this came from and why you're so amazing as the CEO of this radio station.
And I think CEO is a light term because I am half owner. My wife and I are in this business together,
which is incredible.
And the title is just, at this point you kind of just make it up. But we are the business owners. We're small business owners here in Reading, providing a service to the community and doing the best that we can to do that, and having a great time doing it.
Oh but don't sell yourself short. Yes. I mean, you make a lot of magic happen, and you're a delight to work with. So as far as CEOs. What a gem.
One of the interesting parts of this business is being able to work with so many interesting people. And we had an opening here that we've been trying to fill since we took over WEEU, and that was our afternoon spot.
Right.
And by some crazy luck, Dave became available. Dave Russell, hi everybody.
Hey guys, how are you?
Dave is the host of the Afternoon Edge here on 830 WEEU,
which is an awesome show.
Thank you so much.
He started in January of this year, after taking over that time slot.
January 6th.
Nice.
Well.
And Dave brings decades of radio experience.
Very cool.
Interestingly enough, part of our paths had crossed before this.
It did.
And
how many years ago was that? Like 17 years, maybe?
Maybe more now at this point. But we were talking about my first commercial job in radio, being Warm 103 in York. Dave was one of my program directors at the time.
Yeah, I came on in 2007, and John was one of our great part-time. We had a great part-time staff, and John was part of that. And who knew years later, the way this thing life works sometimes, and I'm having a great time here.
And you're still putting up with him, which is amazing. It can't be easy.
I'm
just kidding. It's wonderful.
We're having a great time.
Two wonderful gentlemen.
And it's he's just part of this small but awesome team that helps make all the wheels work here. And we're all driving this to be something that's really special. And he's part of that process.
You guys are crushing it. And with the end,
one of the things I wanted to say about this guy and Kristine as well. Yes. I've asked for several things since I got here. They've given me everything I wanted, including a great afternoon co-host by the name of Leah Barnes. Sadly, she's not here today.
Right.
But I couldn't be more thrilled to be here.
Oh, yeah.
I love what's happening here. I mean, I walked in here and I saw all how it's been renovated and, fantastic. We just moved into that new studio, which is just awesome. This is a great time to be here, and I'm proud to be associated with WEEU.
Oh, and your show is fantastic,
Thank
and
you.
You have some really exciting things coming up on The Edge. Do you want to share anything that's highlighted?
Let's see what's coming up. Well, first of all, on June 6th, we're going to be broadcasting live from the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum World War II weekend, which is at the Reading Airport from 3 to 6. So I said to Leah yesterday, I said, I wonder if we can get up in one of those planes before we do our show.
Yes.
Which I think would be really cool.
Yes.
Put on like the old helmet.
Yes.
Look like Snoopy and the Red Baron.
Oh my God, please.
So awesome
that would be so incredible.
So we're gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Insurance will let us to do that, I hope.
Right.
I didn't see anything.
One of the things. You didn't hear anything.
No,
yeah.
That's one of the things.
Very cool.
We broadcast from Reading Phillies a couple weeks ago. Had a great time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been out to that stadium in probably 15 years, and how much it had changed.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing what we had. So every year, every survey says the best minor league experience in all of baseball is right here in Reading.
We are so lucky to be
time.
here.
We're very lucky to be here.
That is awesome. Sure. Okay, so we have some true crime on.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned Leah Barnes.
Yes.
How Leah and I got connected was about doing that. I was out probably a couple days before I started here at the first day, which was actually, I guess, started in December, show started in January. And Leah and I were just talking and said, well, what about a show on true crime? And I thought,
so
cool. There are all those podcasts
yes.
and everything, but I don't know if
huge
there's any,
following.
And I don't know if there's any true crime radio shows.
Right.
So we started it, and
so
it's
smart.
20 weeks later. It's going really well.
Yes.
We had a great event with Dr. Rachel Toll.
So cool.
She's an amazing woman, and the fact that the way her mind works,
yes, fascinating.
These individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some amazing cases. There are a lot of cases. Trials going on right now.
Of course.
That people need to keep updated with, and what's what we do on the show with True Crime Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Tuesdays at 4.
Perfect, and what a great way to incorporate true crime, which is so awesomely popular right now.
It is,
and I, of course, am a huge fan of it. So I was super happy to see that.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Hi, I'm Bob McCool, co-host of Mornings with Mike Keller, and I also do a play-by-play for our high school sports, WEU, high school basketball and high school football.
I'm Mike Keller, host of Mornings with Mike here on 830 WEEU, and I've been hosting the show now for like 11 years, and this is the best environment I've ever worked in here with the Treese Media Group, so this is awesome.
So that's where they kept all the records.
Yeah.
And these shelves were lining that wall.
So cool.
But they
moved
moved
all the records. Oh my God. And the old machines.
Yeah, and like we're talking about the different formats. There's reel-to-reels, records. Here's
all of it. Oh, that's so cool.
Cart machines here. So we're talking about those little guys, like all different eras.
Oh my God, that's so cool. And of course, like the incredible record collection that used to be the primary only way of getting. And then of course that sound to me is still the best of records.
Well,
but,
this is even more interesting, is there's still a pile of the 78 RPMs that somehow made it from the studios on Penn Street over here during the move in the late 60s.
That's incredible.
Still here.
Oh, that's so fun though. I love old stuff. All the old WEEU like brackets and stuff. Oh, just awesome. Have a feeling you've had some really awesome guests, really funny guests. Can you share some stories about some wonderful people or whoever has been here?
Yeah, over the past, it's good, coming up on a year and a half now, so it's been very exciting. Can't believe it's just flown by.
Yeah.
But, on our Mornings with Mike program, Mike does a great job bringing a variety of guests in. I think that's one of the things that makes WEU so special is that we're not shoehorned into what some other radio stations are. So like if you have your formats, political talk, that every talking head on there is going to be a political talking head. We have programs that are very much variety programs, but we're focused on the local community. So we want to bring as many people in, and get people from all areas of our community to come through the door. And that brings a lot of variety and can make some fun things happen. Yeah. I think one of the most unique visitors that we have is probably the Lehigh Valley Zoo. And you think about that, and you're like, well, how's that work? Well, the strangest thing is coming in here and seeing like penguins and other exotic animals wandering around the studio, and and then when you listen to it, like the Lehigh Valley Zoo has fantastic representatives, and they're animal ambassadors who come in, who are caretakers.
Yes.
Very informative,
and
they tell you all about the animals and everything that's going on at the zoo, obviously. But then as they're the conversation's happening on the air, you get to hear the sounds of the animals because they're doing their thing, they're making their noises.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely hilarious. And we have 3 kids.
Yeah.
So was it the last time we had the zoo in? They did have the penguins in, and there was another small animal, and it's skipping my mind right now.
Okay.
But we brought the kids in, and the kids are there looking through the window. And watching penguins in the studio. So that's
what an incredible experience. And I feel like you're also recording everyone's reactions to the hilarity that are like animals coming in.
Of course.
Or penguins, which are like one of the funniest animals to exist and just adorable. And they do make silly sounds. I know, like, if you like, some of them love to be like tickled or whatever, and they make, because I watch a lot of animal videos, obviously have a lot of going on in my life. So I watch tons of that footage, and it's just so, how cute. Lehigh Valley Zoo.
Well, and then on the flip side, Mike doesn't like snakes.
Oh gosh.
So when they bring a snake in, it makes for hilarious radio.
Yeah.
Because Mike is just Mike, and he's all freaked out.
Yeah.
And
but has to continue the show.
And has to continue. And obviously,
obviously,
there's no danger. But
well, no, I know, but
but it makes
I would
so
react
much
like
fun.
that. Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
Some of the other like more interesting guests would be. And you were lucky because today is a morning pint day. So every Thursday, Mike brings in a local brewery, winery, or
perfect timing.
Perfect timing
by design.
But the awesome thing about it is you think about they're going to have some beer people on. It's not just about beer and drinking. It's about the stories that they have to tell.
Yeah.
Because every one of these,
artists.
they're all small businesses. They're all people like you and me who are in the community who found a passion for something.
Love it and want to share.
Came from so many different areas.
Which is so cool.
And then have decided to go down a path that has the common denominator is they're creating beverages of some sort, right? But it's the variety of what they're actually doing with it is so incredibly different. So when you tune into that, the stories are so robust. The people are like they have great personalities and they have a great story to tell, and it's a different story every single time. So it makes it very interesting. Yeah. Sometimes it's absolutely hilarious. Because they're not used to being on the radio. Of course. So sometimes he has to hit that dump button because somebody accidentally says a naughty word. It's just very light and free and fun, but it's a very real. A segment of his program that provides a real community moment.
Well, and how awesome! And how else would you learn about the backstories or the origin stories, if you will, of all of these breweries or distilleries or whoever's coming in, and to know that they all come from such crazy different backgrounds, but all with a love or passion of this one thing, and like making artisanal things and just the science behind everything too. It's like so fascinating to learn how things are made, and if you don't know how it. For me, I love watching how things are made and just to hear directly from the people, A, how they got into the business, and to be like the secrets they learned or the best practices they learned to make things is just so fascinating. And one of the many reasons why you should tune in and listen to all of the programming that they have, because it's community-based, really, as you said, like a rich tapestry of different backgrounds and people just kind of falling into different niche things and sharing with us their awesome journey, because the journey is really, to me, the most fascinating. Hearing your journey, getting to hear, is incredible. And now I have to get the chicken out of the oven because I am making a feast for the radio program. Just kidding.
Brand new WEEU studios, completely renovated.
Wow.
New custom cabinetry built locally here.
Okay. Wow.
And the whole point was to make a great collaborative environment for all of our guests and talk shows that we're inviting people from the community in. We want them to be in a great environment. Right. And here we are.
Yeah, and it is great.
Bill, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Listen to Bill. He's amazing.
Thank you, Bill. The room that we're in used to be the newsroom here at WEEU, but the main studio, while we were doing the renovations, had to be completely gutted. So when we took over, we upgraded our computer systems, automation systems, networking, everything had to be rewired. So while we were getting that done in this new studio, we had to have a place for everybody to go for that construction to work. So this is the studio that we ended up turning into the temporary on-air studio. So after, I would say 9 months ago or so, we moved into this location. But it was already an upgrade from what was already there. So we had put a new console in, new microphones, cleaner area, new chairs, and new computer systems. But a completely different world for our guys to work in from what we inherited. Yeah, come on up, come on around. Yeah,
So what a lot of people don't realize is the people who have shows are the hosts. Some of them really understand how to use the boards as well, so they're the engineers that are able to handle this on their own, which is just fascinating. Because back in the day, you needed to be able to, especially do all of it yourself, because there, depending on what slot you had or whatever. And I'm sure you had to learn all this stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, in the days of music radio, the various different formats that music was delivered, like people were playing records on the radio, right. And I mean, we have a basement full of records here. Wow. And I mean, we take you down and show you that menagerie. It is a disaster. Wow. But like, if you went from playing records to then there were these things that looked like 8 tracks that were called carts that were tape that contained one. Yes. Yeah. So there were some of them around here too, but you would have to play those. Then there were CDs, and now everything has moved into the digital world. Right. So everything is contained in a computer. So as you can see, it's a much like a radio person who came up will say that this is much more boring, right, because there's not a lot going on, right, but it's a very clean environment and ends up being a lot easier to work with. But you still there's still an art to it. So making sure that you know where your controls are and what needs to be on, when it needs to be on, what's off when it needs to be off. The fading makes a difference on how things sound on the air and what the listener hears. So you still have to know what you're doing on here and be familiar with it. You are standing now in our production room. Again, another completely renovated space. Mm-hmm. But this is where a couple of things happen. Mm-hmm. All of our commercials are produced in here. Our production director, Andy P., pretty much does all of the work from this room. But the room is also set up to do other types of recording as well. So you can see the conference microphone set up here. Mm-hmm. So we are set up to do podcasting, pre-recording interviews, pre-recording radio shows. Mm-hmm. But give it like 30 minutes, and this will be a very busy room in this building. Program live. Okay. We want to make sure that we're able to get them on, right? So we can have up to 5 people in this room interviewing and record them and get them ready for broadcast.
And I think you had mentioned too, like you can do podcasting too, because the equipment allows it, which is awesome and very popular right now. Very cool.
Like, well, let's just do it all. But again, this room was taken completely to the studs. Right. All of the furniture. There was it was actually an old office table that was in this position that they had built a custom like countertop. Oh wow. That sat on top of it. Okay. But that was the foundation. But anyway, what we ended up doing was all of that went out. All of that was trashed. There was an old console. We put a new console in, new microphones, new table, new mic stands, new computers, and simplified this room to make, again, an open and clean environment.
Which it's very welcoming and probably really productive being in this space.
It really is. The other thing that the old space didn't allow for was the spacing was very tight. So like if you had somebody with a wheelchair or
just a bigger person.
Yeah, you couldn't actually make your way around the table. Yikes. So we opened all of this up. So it's now much more accessible and much more functional.
That's amazing. And this is beautiful. And I feel like just based on watching, television or seeing movies, seeing it up close is so different. And it's so incredible that somebody is an engineer and understands how to do all of these slides and everything. And I'll bring the camera over to show you what I'm talking about, but just phenomenal. And the wood is what threw me thinking that this was, but looking at the tech part, it obviously is brand new.
It's an older console. So so what we are so in today's world, you can go all digital, right? Or you can be analog. So we ended up becoming an analog plant. One of the reasons why we do that is, as you know how technology moves. Like think about your iPhone, for example. You have an iPhone for how long? Before something is just planned to be obsolete. So then that means like, say Apple no longer supports the newest
the updates,
operating system.
and everything,
And if you don't get it, then none of your apps work.
Right, and that's
So with everything,
that's so smart to do it the way you did it then.
Well, and I know people like engineers in the community, and there's surplus equipment out there, and I know.
Oh yes.
One of the engineers I was talking to who helped secure some of this gear that we're working with, like the consoles are a little bit older, but he had a whole digital setup, and and it was fairly modern. But he said to me, he's like, "It looks great. It's going to be flashy." He said, "But it's all digital, so it is now 10 years old."
Right.
And because it's 10 years old, even though it works perfectly fine, it's a Windows XP based operating thing. They no longer support it, and now there's issues that we're seeing with it, and you can't get it fixed. So essentially, what was $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 worth of equipment that we could have gotten is nothing more than e-waste.
Right.
However, these consoles like this one, these are rock solid. They're workhorses,
built really well and built to last, as things used to be.
And even though it might be 20 years old,
it's still perfect.
You can put new capacitors in it. You could do all of the work to bring it back to
really smart.
And the parts are plentiful, and they never go obsolete. Because analog is analog. In is in, out is out, and that's what that is. So it gave us some flexibility to upgrade the equipment while also doing it for the long haul. So we can incorporate digital into the analog, and it works incredibly well.
It's so smart to do it that way, and to be able to have something that lasts forever, that you're able to update, and not a flashy new tech thing that will be outdated within a year. Brilliant. Very, very smart.
The beautiful thing about it is when we look at that new studio that we just put up, the board may be a little bit older, but it's still flashy.
Yes.
And everybody who comes into the studio, like, unless you're some radio geek or you're an engineer or somebody in the industry, you're not going to look at that and say like, oh well, that's X number of years old. You're like, no, it's a radio station.
Yes,
it's
I
a
got
radio
super
console.
excited.
And it works fantastic.
Yes, that's awesome. That's so smart. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys around so you can see this closer. Come with me. And I'm going to switch you around, but you can look at me for a second. Okay. And this is the beautiful beast that can be updated and can still be connected with digital things, but does not go out of style and is always a beautiful workhorse, which is really cool. But just how gorgeous is this space? What a brilliant place to collaborate and to be able to share all the cool things that you do in whatever you do.
So one of the things that WEEU also has that's very unique is we have a very long-running Saturday morning program that is incredibly popular in Berks County and beyond, as we call it here. But it's called Jack's Backyard.
Yes, yes.
And
huge fan, by the way.
Yeah, so
big burger, by the way.
And that's the other thing too. It's a very unique program in that it's about bird watching.
Yes.
And I remember years before I even entertained the idea of being where I am here with WEEU, just driving through the area, dialing around on a Saturday morning, I remember like stumbling upon this and hearing a show about birds. I'm just like, what is this? But I didn't leave it.
Yeah.
Because the program was so unique. Jack was so easy and smooth to listen to. The callers and how he weaved his way in and out of all of this was fascinating. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, that's a good program.
Yeah.
The shocking thing is, like, listening to him then, I never understood the whole story.
Right.
That, like, Jack just celebrated his 92nd birthday. 92 years old. Jack still
92 years young. Wow.
He still comes in this building every Saturday morning. He runs his own board.
Wow.
So he drives the ship himself.
Okay. That's incredible.
He has a call screener that helps coordinate the calls, like as we all do. But but he runs his own board. He does his own research. And
that's really
what's
cool.
even more impressive is this is the only radio station Jack Holcomb has ever worked for. And he started in October of 1956. So next year he'll be celebrating.
I can't do that math.
He'll be celebrating next year his 70th year. On not just on radio, but on WEEU, which is
that's
shocking.
a record-breaking number. I feel like across many radio stations, I would have to imagine.
And add another level of complexity. If you let Jack tell the story, he was approached by his program director or general manager, whoever it was at the time, and that person said, Jack, you're going to do a show about bird watching. And Jack had no experience, no background, none of that. So he just said, okay.
Yeah.
And now he is
like the expert.
He's like, yeah, he's like one of the Berks County experts, if not the most familiar people with bird watching and nature and being a naturalist that you can find. So amazing, right?
That blows my mind. I would have thought that like he was just an avid bird watcher and he just never stopped talking about it. So they're like, just take the show. But you never know. I didn't expect to hear that this person who has been doing it, Jack, for coming up to like 70 years, did not have a background in bird watching, but has done the research and done the work, and just go to show you that you can do anything. You just need to put in the effort. Mm-hmm. And to rise to the occasion and be so successful to continue going is, and made my mind explode. And
it's not that he just does his show,
right?
And all of that stuff that we just talked about,
right?
But he has a massive audience, and the one thing I'll say is like if you look at the Nielsen ratings, mm-hmm. he beats every station for total audience in his time slot on Saturday morning. Like if somebody's listening to radio in Berks County,
listening to him.
They're listening to Jack Holcomb
talk
on
about
WEEU.
birds. Which is amazing.
Yeah, which is great.
And I'm such a birding nerd. So anyway, I found my new favorite thing to listen to Saturday mornings while I'm looking at birds, listening to Jack talk about birds, which I can't imagine a better way to spend the time.
No.
That's my mind. That's incredible. Helping Harvest collab with WEEU.
What are we doing? We're packaging up all of the donations that we've received for our Helping Harvest, knocking hunger out of the park food drive, food with a PH, because we did this as a spring food drive to kick off baseball season, but also to help Helping Harvest in a time when donations are down. So this is the second year we've done that. Last year, we gathered 830 pounds of food for Helping Harvest, which is interesting that we actually naturally landed on 830, considering we're on 8:30 a.m. So we're hoping to exceed that. Today is the drop-off day, so we're getting all of the donations into the boxes, so we can load them in the cars, and we're going to take them all up to Helping Harvest for the final weigh-in. This is the second year, and the goal is to just make it bigger and bigger every single year that we do it. Our listeners
love a good tuna.
Stop in at various locations. So we worked with some of our sponsors, and they volunteered to be drop-off locations. So I think this year we had McGinty Motor Cars, 3 Redner's locations, Why Missing Restaurant and Bakery, Pagoda City Brewing, Classic Harley.
Yeah.
And so people could just drop off at those locations, obviously at our building here.
Right.
And then Mike and Bob went out a couple of times to various Redner's locations. And over the lunch hour, gathered donations there too, and invited listeners to come out. So everything you see here all came from the listeners at WEEU.
Thank you very much. We have had the most incredible time here today at WEEU. I am very honored to have been let in and set free and to meet everybody. And I understand if anybody needs to contact me about me paying for their therapy now, but that's totally fine. That's a different thing. And I want to thank all of the hosts that let me kind of crash their party, and the guests that were here making really early morning memories, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And thank you both so much for having me. And thank you guys for catching this all-new episode of Sam Explains the World. I'm your host, Samantha Bremekamp. And if you haven't already, but I suspect that you have, please tune in to WEEU because they do incredible things. It's all community-based. It's really amazing. And you can call in and see if you can have your voice featured if you're polite. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.